A wise man once said, "The same things that make us laugh can make us cry." Anime is no stranger to that. As much as we love anime, we've all had that anime moment that just drove us to tears. I know I have a few. So, I figured I'd share mine with all of you. Since I've seen such an influx of new subscribers, currently about 320 at the time of recording this, I want to be open about it and connect with y'all. And feel free to share your own if you like. Taking a break from Yu-Gi-Oh! Content to share my personal side. So I guess think of this as my personal thank you and a bit of a 300 subscriber special. Stephen Blocker's Top 10 Saddest Anime Moments. Now, just as a heads up, some pretty heavy stuff is going to be discussed here today. And also, this is not a general saddest anime moments, it's my personal list. There's some very specific things that get to me, so maybe some heavy hitters won't be on the list because either I haven't seen them or they didn't connect with me. So I apologize for that, but feel free to share yours in the comments. So let's get started. Get your tissue boxes ready. Number 10. Azumanga Daioh's ending. First off, it's a moment that's not actually a tearjerker by intent, but it's still a downer. Azumanga Daioh is a fun show. A very fun show, actually. While a bit basic by today's standards, since the whole cute girls doing cute things archetype has become so much grander, and really overdone in the past 2 decades, this series was basically the grandfather, or maybe grandmother, since it's an all-female cast, of those series. The girls we followed for the past 25 episodes have finally graduated high school. We followed their journey from freshman to graduation and see them bond and grow closer and go on all sorts of wacky misadventures in this time. This is a happy one. They graduate, and most of them seem to have gotten into college after a period of uncertainty. I think the moment that gets to me most is the lack of next episode preview. You see, these were always super fun and very energetic in this show, but in the final episode, it's right to the end credits song, which is far from a happy song. It's a very quaint and peaceful song, bit of a downer. But also, think of what it symbolizes. If they're graduating, that makes the chance for a sequel 0. You're never going to see them again, as in the manga, while there's still chapters left that weren't covered. Every chapter takes place while the girls are in school. And it's also a symbol of maturity, as they don't permanently stay the same age, unlike a lot of other anime characters, or animated characters in general. They grow, they change, they mature, just like real people. They age and go through grades, just like all of us. And I still wonder, do they still remain friends after this? I mean, everyone goes through this. Once you advance to a new stage of life, like graduation, people you know often just fade away. Number 9. Bad Dream Bear and By Your Side. These are 2 stop-motion animated music videos centering around plushes. By Your Side, set to the Saddest song of the same name, is part of a trilogy of fundraising music videos called Zapuni, set up to help people who were hurt by the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, one of the most devastating in Japan's history, and potentially even world history. Of the 3 in this trilogy, By Your Side is the one that hits me the hardest, as it on the surface is the most tragic, and then the context of what it's a fundraiser for makes it even worse. It has these 2 stuffed animals who love music and listening to their owners sing, but the owner abruptly goes missing. They try to find her, but the house has also been devastated, so they clean up the home in preparation for her return. Pretty deep for a cute, tongue-in-cheek music video. I'm also going to lump in Bad Dream Bear with this entry as well. Bad Dream Bear is a music video by the group Sushi Ma Mirai, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And it revolves around a bear who has nightmares, and he's turning them into fun by fighting his dream demon. It's definitely the lighter one of the two, and I just love the song. It's very whimsical, and the bears just look so cute. And the song's lyrics are all about making the most of being at the bottom and turning bad into good. Bad Dream Bear also got to me, but I actually don't know why this one did. It probably has to do with Toy Story, making me all empathetic to toys. But yeah, I guess I just have a soft spot for plushie. And there's also the fact that around the time I saw it, unfortunately, my dog had passed away. And I was dealing with it by just not dealing with it. If you've ever cried at something and don't know why, that's how I describe it. Okay, so how do you feel right now? Both entries so far have been pretty light, I'd say. Well, unfortunately, things are about to get a lot harder. So here we go. Number 8. Death Note, the story of Naomi Masora. So Death Note has a ton of characters who kick the bucket. Heck, I mean, it's in the name, what do you expect? I'm pretty sure the body count is probably over 1,000. Maybe even 10,000. Every character who meets this fate, there's one I just watch the series and wish a different outcome would happen every time I watch it. So of all the people who lose it in Death Note, why is she the one I feel the worst for? I don't know, honestly. I guess I have a bias towards female characters, I fully admit it. I tend to feel worse for them, even if the situations are similar. But there's also a lot of reasons. I think her backstory is probably the most tragic, her being the retired fiancé of someone investigating the Kira case. Once he's taken out, she takes on her own investigation and genuinely gets close to unraveling the mystery before we're even 1/5 of the way through the anime. And her outcome is actually the worst possible situation because her family never gets closure on what happened to her. Just that she vanished. In fact, we the audience never even learn what happened to her. Just that she's gone. And that's a real fear a lot of people experience in real life. I also feel like it's because her goal is the most noble. She's a smart and capable female character who gets pushed aside for the male leads. As for why I connect with her more than the other characters, much of them are either not as sympathetic, or at least had their chance to shine. Naomi Masora's time was cut critically short, very abruptly, and it's just tragic because all she wants to do is find out what happened to her husband. They were even going to settle down and maybe have children. This is the moment in my eyes Light Yagami went from anti-hero to villain protagonist, and this whole episode is just very tense. She's moments away from being saved and someone intervening. Just think, if she showed up an hour later in the day, she'd have made it. Just one bad lapse of judgment caused her downfall. And also, this whole thing encapsulates a media trope I just hate. When you have a highly capable or talented female character, or side character in general, but they have to be axed immediately to not upstage the hero later. Number 7. Grave of the Fireflies, pretty much the whole movie. If you want to make an anime fan cry, tell them these 4 words. She never woke up. I can't even put a specific moment in the movie here. The whole thing's a tragedy. The only thing I can think of that's not heartbreaking is probably the studio logos at the beginning. You watch these siblings go through basically the worst hell possible to make any kind of life for themselves in post-war Japan. And in the end, it's all for nothing. I think the scene that hurts me the most is when Setsuko is chewing and sucking on those rocks in hopes of getting any sort of nourishment, with nothing but hope to get them through, just waiting for their dad, who's in the military, to come and rescue them. In fact, he doesn't even want to use the money because he thinks his dad is coming home soon and will get mad about it. I mean, they lose everything. I mean, their mom, their aunt cheats them out of their own resources to support her own family and blatantly undercuts them, and then they leave and have to totally just support themselves. Number 6, Mai Valentine vs. Yami Merrick in Yu-Gi-Oh! Think of this entry as the placeholder for your favorite character passing away or being hurt in some way. The scene that hurts you specifically, but doesn't really seem to affect other people the same way. So the Mai Valentine vs. Merrick duel, I was about 8 when I saw this episode. Now, for context, I've made jokes about this before, but Mai Valentine is my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Character, and pretty much my first animated crush. If I knew what a waifu was at the time, well, you know, I was really attached to her because she was genuinely one of my favorite characters, and my first animated crush. Yeah, what can I say? Around this time, I was a little bit more cynical about media and becoming self-aware of the tropes. You know, the whole suspension of disbelief thing. At this point, I realized that the hero of the story, not just in Yu-Gi-Oh! In comics, anything, will always win. And then the villain, unless they're facing the main protagonist, they're never going to lose. And I was becoming aware of this at the time. So when I first saw this duel, I knew 2 things. She's not going to win, which sucked, and that something not good was going to happen in this duel. I'm not going to lie, I cried my first time watching it. Especially since it's such a slow burn. It's 3 episodes. And, you know, she plays well for a while. But then they do the shadow game, and then she starts forgetting her friends. And then her backstory of being a permanent loner. You know, with that context, this is really horrible to watch. And we also start learning more about her backstory. She lost her parents as a child. Her only friend was her Harpy Lady card. And then, to top it off, she's off to the Shadow Realm after fighting the good fight. So yeah, I mean, she's gone for 50 episodes, which sucks if you're a fan of her character. And to make things worse, I had actually lost interest in the series before I saw the resolution of this story. So the last time I saw my favorite character, she was in a coma and stuck watching her friends have fun without her, trapped in the Shadow Realm forever. But there's also the fact that I think my parents kind of just decided no more Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while because of my reaction to this episode. Because keep in mind, I would watch it on the TV in our living room, and you know, my family would be in the same room, so they would sometimes watch it with me, but if they weren't, they were usually in the same room anyway. And then when it happened, I cried. I really did. And then my parents saw it, and I can imagine that was concerning for them. So, you know, they probably had a greater sense that this series was darker than it let on, and was probably too dark for me to watch. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of got phased out of our house for a while. This moment itself probably won't be on many Saddest lists, and I understand that. But it's less the scene itself, and instead my connection with Mai Valentine as a character. Number 5. Anohana, the flower we saw that day. Even if you just read the description of Anohana, the flower we saw that day, you immediately know this is not a happy show in the slightest. I mean, imagine the friend who passed away when you were younger is now a spirit and is talking to you, but only you can see her. Narrowing down a single saddest moment in this show is very challenging. I'd probably go for the ending where she says truly goodbye and finally communicates with the whole group and just gives them one last final message. However, I think the most tragic characters in this series are Menma's family, rather than her friends. Her mom is just totally broken. Like, she spends most of the day praying at her shrine, while Menma has a brother who has just been totally forgotten. At one point, he even asks his mom if she knows how tall he's got. And that secret bass song, it's perfect. Like, genuinely. Also, random side note, if anyone's interested, there's a live-action adaptation of this series, and it's not too bad. Number 4, Chirin's Bell, the scene with the snake. a bit more of an obscure entry. In fact, looking at this, you wouldn't be blamed if you didn't know it was anime by looking at it. It more resembles a Disney movie from the time than anything. If you're familiar with Bambi, imagine it like that, but with sheep and a lot more dark. So in this movie, but it's just the idea of it. Instead of hunters, Chirin is a lamb whose mother is taken out by a wolf. And that's pretty gut-wrenching by itself, but the part that's even worse is actually more of the small throwaway scene. Chirin comes across a mother bird defending her eggs in a nest from a snake. Clearly not an even battle, which sucks because the bird is the one defending her nest. The snake is just looking for a meal. In an attempt to help, Chirin just makes anything worse as she attacks the snake, but it's too late for the bird, and the eggs all break in the collision anyway in his attempt to help. And Chirin is just completely torn up about it. I don't know why this got to me so much, but it's probably because I love birds, and I am genuinely terrified of snakes. I mean, I guess it's just nature, but that doesn't make the scene any better. Number 3, Aishiteruze Baby shows subplot. Another more underground entry, but this was a super impactful anime for me. I saw it by random chance, and wow, it really stuck with me. Just a trigger warning, because this anime, no exaggeration, contains a lot of heavy themes. This anime has by far the worst parents in any anime ever. Viewer discretion is heavily advised for anyone who wants to watch it, especially if you grew up in a toxic home environment. Even the main plotline itself involves a mom who just leaves her daughter with her sister's family and vanishes into the night. However, it actually has its sweet moments, as the person who becomes her main caretaker is the lazy, slacker older brother of the family, and it's meant to teach him responsibility. And in all honesty, he's actually really good with her. If you've ever seen Usagi Drop, imagine that. One of the heaviest side plots involves a boy in Yuzuyu's class whose mother creates a truly toxic home environment. It is realistic to a terrifying degree. We hear her screaming in one episode, and I honestly have no words. Yuzuyu and this boy become best friends, and that leads to one of the most infuriating conclusions to a subplot in any anime I've ever seen. It is the worst, yet sadly not an unrealistic, outcome. Her actions, the mom's actions, are monstrous. But to make it worse, the show tries to paint her as a sympathetic character later by showing how she's a social outcast and how her husband is completely uninvolved. In the end, a simple apology is all that happens. There are absolutely no institutional consequences for her behavior, even after things escalate to a point where he requires a hospital visit. Instead, Yuzuyu's friend, Sho, he's forced to say a sudden goodbye because his family relocates to find a fresh start. I hate this plot. Number 2, a silent voice, all the scenes from Shoko's childhood. Yeah, all the bullying scenes in A Silent Voice were frighteningly realistic. A sweet girl targeted by bullies because she's deaf. I mean, how cruel can you be? As someone who went through a similar situation of bullying, it hit way close to home. Bullies, the staff's indifference, they were destroying her hearing aids. All of it is crap many of us had to suffer through. The worst part is every day she comes to school with a smile. She tries to apologize to him for offending him, and she does whatever she can to make peace with it, despite herself being the target. Nobody is patient with her, nobody's accommodating, nobody's understanding, not to mention, there's a moment where this one girl in her class tries to sabotage her during the class choir contest, so she messes up and gets the whole class mad at her. In fact, when the kid bullying her starts to get bullied himself, she tries to defend him by cleaning his desk of the mean things people had wrote about him. she is nothing but friendly to him and to anyone. Most kids would probably be indifferent to their bully getting bullied, but not Shoko. And this hits hard because it's a very realistic depiction of how bad it can be. I'm sure a lot of people identify with her. Before we get to number 1, let's do some honorable mentions. The ones that affect me, but not necessarily either made me cry, or were too similar to other entries, or for other reasons. Yusuke's funeral in Yu Yu Hakusho. His mom seems to be the only one genuinely distressed by it, as Yusuke was a delinquent in life, and that kind of soured his reputation among his classmates. The elfin lead scene with the puppy. This horrified me. Someone sent me this to be cruel on an anime forum way back in the day when my only anime exposure was frickin' sanitized 4Kids dub, Shiya Kusho. It's a short, and the content to it is similar to that of Aishiteruze Baby. And it's just not on here because I saw it a little too recently for it to be on here. So I had the script already done to include it in the rankings. So it's an honorable mention. Nam's backstory in the original Dragon Ball. It's pretty sad, and you just want him to win, as all he really wants is to get food and water for his community that's suffering through a horrible drought. I really wanted him to beat Goku, and honestly, it seems like he could have, because Master Roshi was preaching the idea that Goku winning the tournament would actually be worse for him, so I thought Nam was going to be the one to do it. But thankfully, this plotline is happily resolved as Master Roshi lets Nam take all the water he could possibly want. She and her cat, Everything Flows. It's up there, but honestly, fits a little bit too closely to other entries, especially my number 1. There's a little bit of a theme going on with people losing their pets, because that's something that hits close to home too, as I've lost more than a few pets I've been very close to, unfortunately. And finally, Any Separate Ways ending. You know how in a lot of fantasy series, reverse isekai, the love interest, magical girlfriend, has to go back home and leave the protagonist forever? It happens a ton in these series. In fact, it's probably the most common ending for a magical girlfriend anime, as I can think of at least 6 series with that plot as the ending. Even the gag comedy series, Plus Sized Elf, did it, along with the parody of this genre, Bludgeoning Angel Dokuro-chan. They're definitely sad, but they always work out at the end. And number 1, Pokemon. If I say sad Pokemon moments, most of you would think the abandoned Charmander in the woods in the rain, the episode where Jessie tries to become a Pokemon nurse and her Chansey gets fired from the position because of her, Pikachu's Goodbye. There's a lot, but believe it or not, I didn't cry at any of these. Even Pikachu's Goodbye didn't make me cry. Well, actually that's not 100% true. That song definitely does. You know that The Time Has Come song? It's definitely one of the most heart-wrenching songs I've heard in anything, really. Like, it's genuinely heartbreaking. Like, it's good enough I could see it in an All Dogs Go to Heaven movie, or really any movie about losing a pet. It's definitely up there with that When She Loved Me song from Toy Story 2. But there's reason for this. First is that I had gotten into Pokemon a little bit later. I'd been watching around 2005, and I didn't catch the series in the beginning until about 2006, 2007. So by the time I saw this episode, Diamond and Pearl had already been out. So I saw more than enough episodes of Pokemon to know he didn't stay gone. So I knew this wouldn't be permanent. Not to mention, he's literally the mascot. His face basically is Pokemon. It'd be like having Blue's Clues without Blue. You know who never came back? Butterfree. For episode after episode, Butterfree didn't return. Now sure, Ash has let several Pokemon come and go over the years. But why is Butterfree special to me? Well, he's one of the first Ash ever caught. And one of the first he's ever evolved all the way. And he was always special to me because bugs and insects were always my go-to type. I used them in Yu-Gi-Oh!, in Pokemon, pretty much everything. It was my first deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! My first deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Was an Insect Queen and Doomdozer Swarm deck as a child. And then he was just gone. I remember hoping he'd return, but he never did. To my shock, over 20 years later, we finally see him again. Fans who grew up watching the show in its original airing will be old enough to drink by the time this episode had aired, and had kids, and were old enough to have had kids to be the same age as when it aired. This is arguably the longest it took for something to pay off that was established earlier on. Like if Luffy actually ever found One Piece. Pokemon in general is actually the series I get the most nostalgia tears from. More than Yu-Gi-Oh! If you can believe it. Like as a kid, it really affected me. I'd set up my VCR to record it when I was at school, and I actually woke up before school at 6 a.m. when I was in elementary school just to watch it. And I would get frustrated when I couldn't get up early enough. You ever just get attached to a show and don't really know why? That's how I am with Pokemon. And then a few other moments include when Ash spots the Ho-Oh in the sky at the end of episode 1. There was no data on him in the Pokédex, and that always stuck with me. I always wanted to see the resolution. What was that mysterious bird Pokemon in the sky? And of course, the classic, the Jigglypuff song. I recorded that episode, and I never deleted it to record another episode on that tape. Pokemon also sort of led to an argument with my family. Well, less an argument and more disappointment. You see, I was 9 at the time, and I had a ritual with my mom where we'd watch the same show in the evening. It was kind of a tradition for years, but I chose Pokemon over it because it aired at the same time. And that's kind of what triggered the whole he's growing up with his own interests phase with my parents. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Were pretty much my first independent interest. The franchises I got into without my family's involvement. While it's arguably the least serious on the list, just the fact that this series meant so much to me, and it's clearly left its mark on me, is enough to put it at number 1. Just based on the memories alone. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse into my psyche and my mindset. I made this video to just kind of help establish I'm not some soulless narrator. I'm a guy who's here to share my interests with you. I hope some of y'all found this interesting, but my emotional barometer is all over the place. I've cried over simple things, as shown in this video, but strangely I've also been very stone-faced through other tragic moments before. On an unrelated tangent, there's a lot of things that just didn't really affect me in media that get to a lot of people. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.